And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at that!
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good morning. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is getting ready to launch 29 Starlink satellites. And as always, this is not your ordinary Starlink. And I kind of hinted there a bit as why, but we'll get into that as we go on through the stream. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein, who will be your host for today. Of course, I am not alone through all of this. I am also joined by Alex. How's it going this morning, Alex?
Well, I don't know about Florida, but it's been a bit rainy here, so hopefully that doesn't happen out there in Florida. But yeah, hopefully we get a nice launch. It'll be a really nice present, I guess, considering how things are going over here. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we will definitely see weather-wise, and we'll talk about the weather in a bit, especially from the people who are in the field, including on commentary today, Max Evans. Max, how's it going?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, it is a wonderful day here on the space coast of Florida. There are only a few clouds in the sky, and for once, our faces are not boiling yet by noon. So it feels good. We are hoping to get Falcon off the ground in due time today.
Yet is the key word there. We also
Exactly.
have DY. Yeah, we have DYs out in the field as well, who'll be providing some views and things for us. So thank you as always, D. And then producing today, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, is Ryan Caton, with the assistance as well of Jay Keegan. So we got a full house today. And yet, not only is it a full house of people today, it's also a full house of vehicles today. Because in addition to tracking this launch, we are also tracking this on the left side of your screen. That is a live view from the International Space Station of the HTVX cargo resupply vehicle, the next generation of the HTV that just launched a few days ago from Japan on its way to be birthed to the ISS. Not docked, birthed. And we can answer some questions about that as we go along. Which reminds me, if you have any questions, you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF, and we will do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can throughout the stream. So, Alex, can you talk a little bit about the mission and why maybe we have 29 instead of 28? It seems like it's been a while.
Yeah, it's the last time that we had one of these was back in, I think it was like February or March. Like it was a long time ago. Earlier this, like February or March might not seem that long ago, but it was probably like what 80, 90 launches ago, right? For SpaceX. So it was a long time ago, folks. But yeah, and so we've got 29 satellites on this one. It's not a record, as I said. This has already been done before, right? It is though a record for this shell, for this inclination, because when they did that satellite back again, I think it was February or March. I should have probably written that down, but it was a long time ago, right? When they did that, it was on a Group 6 mission. Group 6 missions for the Starlink constellation, they go to a 43-degree inclination, which is lower, which means you get a little bit more help from Earth's rotation. Like if you know this whole thing of like we are rotating towards the east, right? So the more east that you fly your rocket from Florida, the least amount of work it needs to do against the rotation of the Earth. Sometimes you want to go to certain orbits that you actually have to fight against that rotation. For example, if you want to go to a polar orbit, you don't want that eastward component of your velocity. You don't want to go east. You want to go north or south, right? That's the whole point of the polar orbit. So you have to fight against that. And because you have to fight against that, it means your rocket has less performance available, and therefore fewer satellites can ride in the payload bay, right? In the payload fairing. So for today's mission, it is a 53-degree inclination orbit. We'll be going northeast out of the Cape for this one. But it might be the last one for a little bit because, as I said before, Group 6 missions, they go southeast. They are 43-degree inclination orbits. Lower inclination, again, means more performance that is available for the rocket, right? And that means more satellites that you can carry. But this, at least for the time being, seems like it's the last Group 10 mission. Up next, it's a bandwagon mission, also from the Cape as well, from Slick 40. It's going to do an RTLS with a booster. It's going to be landing and all that, but it's heading southeast. And then after that, there's a Starlink mission, and that's a Group 6. It's going to be, again, southeast. So we're probably going to go back to southeast launches. But for the time being, as I said, this one in particular, 1037, is to the northeast.
Yes.
And
so
there you
northeast,
can see...
Sorry. Yep, there is the trajectory that you can see it there going towards the northeast. And if you have the Next Spaceflight app, there's also a way that you can see it more interactive too. But yes, there is the northeasterly that Ryan is pointing out on the screen. I guess the other thing to point out on the screen, which is the one on the right side of the screen there, is the booster today, B1083. Max, what do we have in terms of booster and recovery and all that?
So, as you just said, sorry, this is booster B1083, and this would only be its 15th flight up to this point, which is not young, not old, but sort of middle-aged, I guess, in terms of the grand scheme of things with how the Falcon 9 first stage fleet is here in Florida, and probably also Vandenberg as well. But this will be its 15th flight, and its flight history includes the likes of Crew 8, Polaris Dawn, CRS-31, Astranis from One to Many, IM2, commercial GTO1, and only 8 previous Starlink missions. So 15 flights, it has a good amount of experience under its belt. And besides the 29 Starlink B2 mini satellites on top today, we really don't expect it to be under too much stress or doing anything too different. Hopefully at around 8.5 minutes into flight, it'll be meeting the drone ship. Just read the instructions. Stationed around 600 kilometers out into the Atlantic. And that actually brings me to a good point to talk about on the forecast, actually, if we can transition into that really quick. Is that the risk criteria for booster recovery weather today is moderate, which is probably due to the fact that we have a hurricane out in the lower Caribbean right now and soon to be Atlantic, which is Hurricane Melissa. I mean, I'm sure everyone has seen the imagery and videos going around from the hurricane hunters and those unfortunately in Jamaica, and we are hoping the best for them. But it is a very, very intense storm, and the effects from that are not just it's essentially the effects of the hurricane are not just what you see on a radar or from a satellite image. There are residual effects downrange and elsewhere outside of the hurricane. And in this case, I would presume it has something to do with probably some choppy seas, which Falcon 9 is pretty vulnerable to once you have a swell above 4 or 5 feet, probably every 10 to 15 seconds or so. So that's why, although it is not a high risk of any issue today, so that's good. But what's also good about the forecast is that there's only a 5% chance of a weather-related violation today, which is great. And judging by what our Mark 1 eyeballs are seeing, which is tons of blue sky and only the occasional cloud, I would 100% agree with that conclusion. And the primary concerns with that are actually just the cumulus cloud rules. So everything else is looking good for today, and fingers crossed, we should be getting into prop load operations in just under 10 minutes.
That's what we're hoping for. I mean, just recently, a couple launches ago, we saw one where it was 95% favorable and the concerns were none. But if it's 95% and the concerns are cumulus cloud rule, that's usually a good sign. Also, a good sign is that you can now see the Canadarm, the robotic arm aboard the International Space Station, getting nearer to the HTV-X vehicle that will be captured with the robot arm, and then that arm will attach it to one of the ports aboard the International Space Station, and there will be much merriment and cheer as Japan returns back to the ISS with their own vehicle for the first time in years. So that will be very exciting. And again, keeping an eye on those views on the left from NASA and on the right from our field team. Let's talk about a couple things here. We talked about while we have this on screen, I should point out, that this is being berthed to the ISS. Alex, can you explain briefly the difference between berthing and docking?
Yeah, so as you can see there, when they berth, what they do is they reach out with a cannon arm and sort of, the spacecraft holds position underneath the ISS, and then they go out, they reach to the spacecraft. They have its own grapple fixture as well. You can see it sort of there in the middle of the spacecraft. There's like some kind of triangle thing, right? That's where the arm will go out and hook to that, and then, it will be grappled and then sort of brought to the berthing mechanism. I believe this one is going to be installed on the Harmony module, and so that is one of the main things that sort of represents what berthing is all about. We see that with Cygnus, for example, and Dragon 1 used to also berth as well, but with docking, the spacecraft does all of the work. It just goes out, approaches the port, and just docks to the port without needing any assistance.
And I'm going to chime in here. You may have noticed in the top left, there was that hold mark, and now the clock has changed. There is a new T0 for today's launch. It is now 12:35 p.m. Eastern Time, so about a 15-minute or so delay. So that is updated now. We are about an hour away from that updated launch time. So again, the launch has been pushed a little bit. The window, in case you're wondering, today closes at 12:52 p.m. Eastern Time. So if I can try and do some quick math, that is 17 more minutes, I believe, left in the window beyond the current T0.
Yep.
Hey, I can do math there. Okay. Let me also thank some people as we watch the view literally from atop the robotic arm on the ISS. Cirrus Russell, thanks for becoming a PadRat member. Jens Bells, becoming a flight engineer. Talking about the highest level of support here at NSF are our launch directors and flight engineers. Thank you so very much. You get access to the NSF Discord. You get access to all of the photos. You also get your name at the end of the Flame Trench and NSF Live. And of course, a VIP spot in the NSF parking lot whenever that eventually gets built, if it gets built. Pixo, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. And Vanessa, thank you for the support saying go SpaceX, go Starlink. Appreciate that. Also appreciate, again, the fantastic views that we see on the left side of your screen here as we go to HTV. Alex, let's talk HTV a little bit since we now have some extra time here. What is HTV X1? I don't know how many people who are here in chat actually remember the original HTV.
Yeah, there were, so the HTV is, I think, the H2 transfer vehicle, right? That was the original one. Then the HTVX, I guess now it will be the H3 transfer vehicle. And it's essentially a cargo spacecraft, right? That has its own pressurized section, an unpressurized section, and of course, a propulsion systems and everything section. The first one was literally sort of like, I think the Japanese name was Kunotori, which is, I think, like whale or space whale or something like that. It was big. It was huge. This one is also huge, to be fair. I think it's even bigger in this case. But yeah, the original one, it was very similar to this. The only problem is or sort of difference, I guess, is the way that the modules are now arranged. So with all of the lessons learned from the first generation of this spacecraft, HTV, right? They launched 9 of them, and up until 2020, I think it was, they had up there the HTV-9 spacecraft up there when Demo 2 happened. For example, in May 2020, I think it was already there. So it's been about 5 years since the last one. In those 5 years and many years before that, they've redesigned a lot of the components. They've made it bigger. Why? Because, well, they have now a better rocket. They have the H3 rocket, which debuted a few years ago. It's already flown quite a few times already. And they launched it in that same rocket just a few days ago out of Japan. And so it's got more capability. It's got even a wider fairing and things like that. So they rearranged things. They made it better, the spacecraft. And one of the things that they did was actually made it backwards. So in the middle is the propulsion systems. And the solar panels, you can see there, it's sort of in the middle of the body. Then on the back, it's where the pressurized section is. As you see there, that big sort of gold-looking part of the spacecraft. That's actually the back section, the back of the spacecraft. And the front is where all of the unpressurized systems are for, deploying CubeSats and things like that if they ever want to do that thing, or having exposed payloads. So it's a much different and more versatile spacecraft than the original HTV, just because of how they've rearranged all of these systems around, and it makes it a lot more capable.
Yeah, kind of along those lines, what makes it really cool is the fact that it's designed to be, sure, it'll go up, it'll resupply, but then it can just hang out in space for a while. I believe the goal is to be able to allow on-orbit demonstrations that can last for over a year after they leave the ISS before it re-enters. So talk about an extra way to get some just floating science while you're there, too.
And don't get me wrong, like the first generation was very capable. Like the whole reason, for example, some of these went all the way to 2020, even though the first one, I think it was like 2009, something like that. It was a long time ago that they launched the first one. It stuck around because it was a very capable vehicle, and that's actually how they changed the batteries on the station. I don't know if you guys remember, those watching right now, if you remember these sort of set of spacewalks that they did on the station, where they replaced a bunch of the batteries and everything. Demo 2 astronaut Bob Behnken did one of those as well on the station. And like all of these things that they did to replace the batteries and everything, those bulky, unpressurized cargo things, right, that they were able to bring to the ISS, that was all thanks to that vehicle. And so now they have, a much better, more capable spacecraft, which, they even have advertised this for lunar missions as well. If they had the a much better rocket, this thing could carry like, I think 5 to 6 metric tons to lunar orbit, which is really, really crazy. But yeah.
Lunar orbit.
Yeah,
Holy
because
smokes.
it's got enough delta V that, in theory, if you send it to translunar injection, it can insert itself to a near rectilinear halo orbit, like 8-way and all that. So you could, in theory, put this thing in lunar orbit. Again, you need the correct rocket, right, to launch this into translunar injection. But if you got that rocket, then it can do its own insertion around the moon, and it's a cargo vessel, right? It doesn't need to return, so it doesn't need to have enough sort of performance to then go out of lunar orbit and come back to Earth or anything like that. It can just hang around or crash on the lunar surface or go to heliocentric orbit or something like that, right? So it's got that capability as well built into its systems as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that is on your screen, carrying about 9,000 pounds or 4,000 kilos worth of food and supplies to the ISS. So we're going to continue to watch that and wait for the grapple to occur. In the meantime, again, the launch time pushed, so now we're 53 minutes away. Of course, we talked about the weather being 95% favorable, with the exception of the sea state. Max, the weather has been quite aggressive, shall we say, the last couple of days here around the Cape.
You who either are not locals or don't follow the weather here in Central Florida, just a couple of days ago, or two or 3 days ago now, we had a rather eventful evening in that there was a storm that formed like right over Titusville in the Port St. John area that hung around for anywhere in the neighborhood of like 4.5 to 5 hours, and in that period of time, 15 inches of rainfall was recorded, and that is substantial, especially for that short or that for that period of time. That's not a long time for that much water, and the drainage systems and the streets of Titusville and Port St. John could not handle it, and there was extensive flooding in the area. Unfortunately, thankfully, the Kennedy Space Center has not seemed to take the brunt of that. Same with the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, but those living across the Indian River in Titusville and Port St. John have, unfortunately. But you would not be able to tell right now with how nice the weather is now. But based off of what we saw, or have seen, I should say, in a recent data point gathered from a buoy out in the Atlantic, the swells are around 11 feet, which is pretty. That's a rough ride. I'm not quite sure the distance between the swells, but either way, 11 feet is not good, and that is probably why the booster recovery weather was rated as a moderate concern, as opposed to little or no concern. So that is probably what SpaceX is trying to wait it out just a little bit. But that is the current state. I don't know if Falcon has flown and successfully been recovered in seas that high. But if they do, today might be the day for SpaceX to try and find out. But this booster is still pretty young and has a lot of life left in it. So hopefully everything goes well, assuming they even attempt to launch today.
Right. And again, it is strange calling this booster young in that this will be its 15th flight. So I can't believe we're at that point now. But yes, you can see there are 10.8 foot sea states. Not great, Bob. Not great.
Not great. And already 5 to 6 feet is already pretty uncomfortable. So double that again.
Oh, man. I feel bad for the teams that are out there on the vehicles getting ready to assist with its return and to catch the fairing halves out there. I mean, I'm sure they're used to it, but it's still probably not fun. But hopefully, Alex, you pointed out the launches starting next week are scheduled to be more southeasterly. Is this kind of the transition point where it goes from northeast in the summer to southeast in the winter, or why are we finally starting to see the patterns change again with Starlinks?
Yeah, it's been happening for the last couple of years where, they started, I think it was in 2022, 2023, where they started doing southeast launches of Starlink missions because it was 2023 now that I think about it. So it was more beneficial when you think about it in the summertime to do northeast, but then in the wintertime to do southeast, because in the winter it's actually the North Atlantic, the one that gets a bit angry, if you will, right? The waves can get very nasty up there, and the weather downrange as well. There's been even crew missions where they have had to just call it off because the weather downrange when they go up the coast, and they have these sort of abort zones for Dragon and things like that. That's not really the best ideal situation to have when, if they were to have an emergency up during the flight, right? So the same applies also to booster recovery. It's probably not the best to recover boosters in that kind of condition. So you just move south. That's where the weather gets a little bit better during the winter time. Of course, as we've seen recently and as it's happening right now, it's probably not the best idea to go right away. I don't know if they might reconsider going southeast this soon. It feels like, as of late, we've got hurricanes happening down there a lot later in the year. So probably not the best idea, maybe. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. Because this is next week, so there's still a bit of time.
There's still a bit of time. I mean, I'm honestly, personally looking forward to it on a selfish note because, I live towards the southeast of the launch site, so I absolutely get much better views from my place for that. So, again, a little kind of selfish note there that I'm excited for that. But as always, there's still the ones that are going towards geostationary transfer orbit that we'll see go due east. Maybe Southern Polar Launch Corridor soon. I know how much Jack hates that term, but there's still a lot to look forward to, at least.
Bandwagon 4 is definitely southeast, so that one, you'll get it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I will see if I can go outside. Although I will say those are a lot easier to see at night. I know there's questions about people being able to see this launch. They're a little harder during the day. So if you live closer, look, I saw someone asking about Eustis, Florida. You might actually have a chance. It never hurts to go outside. And if you do see it, take some photos and tag us on all the socials at NASA Spaceflight on your favorite platform. And hopefully we will get to see your shots. And at this point, I would like to also welcome in our viewers who are watching on the Popular Science channel as well. This is NSF's coverage of the Starlink 10-37 mission. This will be carrying 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites, hopefully, into orbit today in just about 46 minutes and 48 seconds from now. We are already quite a bit of a ways into the launch window. They have pushed once already, but the launch window does go until 12:52 p.m. Eastern. But right now, the target liftoff time is coming up at 12:35 and 20 seconds. As you can see there on the screen from the Next Spaceflight app, which if you don't check it out, is absolutely fantastic for all the information you could possibly need about launches and everything you need to know of keeping up to date with when these launches might push or delay, or the inevitable word that I won't say, because we don't want that to happen. I am, of course, joined by Alex and Max, who you will hear their voices as we continue. So for those just joining, Alex, what's the recap of where we're at right now with today's launch? Which way are we going? And do you think maybe we'll actually see it launch in this window?
Yeah, so we've got 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites. They are going to a 53-degree inclination orbit. This is going to be a record for this kind of inclination. And right now we are at T minus 45 minutes and 32 seconds, as you can see there on the top left of the screen. And as we count down here to this launch, right now we are awaiting to see what SpaceX will do. Will they go into propellant load or not? That'll be something that we'll be finding out hopefully in a few minutes, because right now they should be going into this little thing called a go-no-go poll. So that is a remote electronic go-no-go poll that they do between all launch operators at the Launch Control Center, probably at Hangar X in the Kennedy Space Center. And what they do is just look at the conditions, right? See what the pad is doing, vehicle, weather, downrange, recovery, and things like that. And so they're probably looking at all of those factors. And we've already delayed, as you said, a little bit into the window. We are near the end of the window, in fact, right? So we'll see what happens with that. I'm sure we're probably going to get something a little bit more firm in a few minutes, because at T minus 38 minutes, they have to give their go. And if they don't give the go, then they cannot proceed with propellant load, which starts at T minus 35 minutes. So we have less than 9 minutes away for that for that decision. So not a long time to wait until we see whether they're actually going for this T0, or we have to wait a little bit more into the window, because they have, what, 17 more minutes, right, in the window that they can maybe squeeze and get into that. But we'll see what they do.
We shall see. The other thing that we shall see on the left side of your screen is a Japanese resupply cargo vehicle to the International Space Station, the HTV X-1. This is an upgraded version of their original HTV vehicle, which last visited the station back in 2020. It is about to be grabbed by that robotic arm in the bottom left of the screen. That robotic arm is, of course, being operated by a person aboard the ISS right now. So they are going to grab onto that, and once they grab onto it, it will be berthed to the International Space Station, meaning they will then maneuver it and attach it to one of the ports on the side of the ISS. And that, of course, carrying over 4,000 pounds of, or 4,000 kilos, 9,000 pounds of food and supplies to the ISS. Lots going on with this. Now, in terms of other things that are going on, there's even more. We have some cool views from the Kennedy Space Center area, because SpaceX is continuing to build out things at the Cape. I mean, Max, we are able to actually see a gigabay going up from our cameras here.
We sure are, and this is a view from the top of the hut, as we call it over here. And this is one of our robot cameras turned about 180 degrees from where it normally is. So there you can see, right in the right smack dab in the middle there, that is the western part of the Florida Gigabay going up. I believe they are just past floor 2 now, and it is rising rapidly. Although I don't want to spoil too much about it, because we will talk about it extensively in our upcoming Space Coast update video. Cough, cough, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Publishing later on today. But that is essentially where boosters and ships are going to be serviced and built over here at the Kennedy Space Center eventually. Hopefully, maybe in the next year and a half or so. We'll have to wait and see how long it takes for the building to be completed and become operational. But I think it is worth noting that from this current view, only the western part of the bay is currently going up, and we talk about that extensively in the update video. But essentially, this is just a theory. But maybe SpaceX wants that part of the building to be operational before the eastern side. Because for the first part of the Starship program that comes to Florida, both ships and boosters are going to be barged over from Starbase, and so where do you keep them in the meantime? It's really not efficient and best for the vehicles to keep them outside in the elements. So they might just want that one side of the building to be ready to house ships and boosters in the meantime for processing and everything else that they would need in the meantime. So that is what you're seeing. That the 2 tower cranes are up fully and doing work all the time, and we should hopefully be seeing it complete in its entirety in the next. Hopefully, I want to say year, but Gigabay is going to be quite giga. I mean, that's really the best way to put it. It's maybe a little over or just under 3/4 the size of the VAB just visually. It's going to be a big building, and in this side, the side that we are currently seeing being built, will then connect to the Star Factory 2.0, as we call it here at the Hangar X in Roberts Road facility. So lots happening, although we don't have as good of views as we get in Starbase, but we are aiming to fly as much as we can to bring the best views possible in the future. So, yes, Gigabay in Florida is going up.
It is. It's exciting. And yes, we have our Space Coast update from the air coming up in just a couple hours. So later today, keep an eye out. If you're not subscribed already on YouTube, make sure you are. That way you'll get a notification when it does go live. And apparently there is a pun goal. I completely and 1,000,000% support the active goal right now, which is to gift Sawyer 5 extra puns for Friday's Halloween Flame Trench. And I promise it won't just be the generic, ooh, this is going to be spooktacular and all of that. I will come up with some good ones. I promise you on that. For those who don't know, Flame Trench is our Friday fun side of the news show where we actively discuss with you guys topics of what's going on in spaceflight. And then, of course, we have our serious This Week in Spaceflight that comes after. Now, this is a view from atop the robotic arm on the ISS. If I recall correctly, this is JAXA astronaut Kamiya Yui operating the robotic arm to grab the Japanese HTV-X vehicle here. So a lot of pride for Japan. And for those who don't know, that is the grapple fixture, as it's called. So you see the little T at the top. That is a target that they use to aim with the camera. And then you've got the little pointy nose thing sticking out. There's a little rod there. Once the arm gets around it, it's kind of like wires. It's this thing that slams around it and holds onto it and tightens around that. And once we do that, we will hopefully see the capture. There you go. You can see the target aligned up, and there we go. It looks like the HTV-X is now officially attached to the ISS via robotic arm. Congratulations to JAXA and Japan on some amazing work there, as always. Beautiful to see the international cooperation going on for a vehicle like this, but gotta be a lot of pride for a vehicle launched from Japan on a Japanese rocket that is now captured by a JAXA astronaut. It's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful there. Now we are at 37 minutes to go. And so far, things are proceeding here. Do you mind just running us through the timeline, Alex, of what we can hopefully expect now?
Yeah, so far, it looks like we are in a good track to get a propeller load in about 2 minutes. You can see there we have already rolled through T-minus 37 minutes. And so far, the SpaceX clock seems to still be counting down. So hopefully that means we are indeed going for propeller load. That propeller load should start, as you can see there on the timeline, at T-minus 35 minutes, starting with RP1 load on both stages and also liquid oxygen load on the first stage. So both of the main tanks on the first stage will get loaded, and also the kerosene RP1 tank on the second stage will get loaded as well in about 85 seconds from now.
There we go. So we should begin fueling shortly. That is assuming all goes well and the weather goes well. All right. Let's see. Reminder, if you're on YouTube, you can tag us at NSF or at NASA Spaceflight. Ask us questions. We will do our best to answer as many of them as we can. Let's see. We should begin fueling shortly. So, of course, we're going to be on frost watch here. The other thing that we are on watch for is New Glenn. Finally, Max, question from Wyoming Coast. Where are we at with Flight 2? Have they rolled out to LC-36 yet?
First of all, I love your name, Wyoming Coast. That's perfect. Bonus points for you. Yes. So New Glenn is currently sitting at the base of LC-36. They rolled it out to the pad at around between 7:30 and 8 p.m. last night. So finally at the pad and hopefully getting ready for a hot fire here in the next, if I had to take a guess, probably 2 to 5-ish days. As far as we can tell, as we can see a picture here tweeted from Mr. Jeff Bezos himself last night, we are still waiting on it to go vertical. So we would suspect if they're targeting sometime in the next couple of days, it would have to go vertical today, so that they can begin fitment checks and checkouts of other parts of the vehicle, both on it and on the ground as well. Still, we have not seen it go vertical yet. Although, as I said, if they are targeting a date sometime in the next couple of days, it would have to go vertical probably today. But as we have seen before, just because that is what they are targeting does not mean that is what's going to happen. So cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross everything you got, because New Glenn, I don't want to say New Glenn needs it. It's a good rocket. It did pretty well on its first flight, but we don't see it fly too often because they don't have the flexibility that SpaceX does with Falcon or Starship. So it does look really, really good out there, I have to say. And I'm honestly also kind of getting used to the unpainted sections on both the engine skirt and the forward module, which is where the fins are for, I guess, atmospheric control. I think it looks really, really, really good.
Yeah, I know there was worries about all the full all-white paint scheme and things and seeing those parts exposed, but I do like it. It's got a charm to it, almost like, when you can see some of the bare spots on Starship. It's got that, that je ne sais quoi. Sorry, English. And there you go. You could see on the left side is our Space Coast Live cameras taking a look at LC-36 right now. And yeah, we see 2 towers, but no rocket vertical yet. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, and you can watch 24/7 as well. And see if it goes vertical too. Let me take a moment as well to thank some people here. Zeres96, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. Captain Death saying puns. I love it. And then Jim Graves one-upping that even a bit, saying let the pandemonium commence. I love it.
Oh dear.
Oh, everyone's in trouble on Friday.
Pandemonium. I kind of honestly don't like that. Even that's pretty clever. So Yeah, that's fine. I'll give that to you, Sawyer.
I didn't come up with that. That was Jim Graves, but that was actually very clever. So shout out on that one. I won't steal it, but that was very good. And then Chris W. NSF asking who was the better bagel choices, Jack or Sawyer? Sawyer, no questions. Anyway, what we're going to keep an eye on as well now is hopefully we should be getting into the range where we will see the booster getting frosty. Start to see hopefully some little wisps coming from it as they start loading in the super chilled propellants. Of course, starting with stage 1, the liquid oxygen and the RP1. Meanwhile, stage 2 just starting with that RP1. And I mean, it seems kind of like a dumb question in some ways, but I see a lot of people ask it, so it never hurts just to go back over it. As we look for frost, where it looks like we might see some behind that bush, why do we see the frost? Is that on the actual, is that the propellants touching the vehicle? Is it something else? Is it, atmospheric?
I can handle that if you want.
Yeah, please.
So yeah, the main reason, a lot of people think that the rockets are like they have tanks inside or things like that. In this case, Falcon 9 is the tank. It's just a bunch of tanks stacked together, if you will, with a bunch of engines at the bottom and then another engine in the second stage. But at the end of the day, what you see there is the tank, the actual propellant tanks, right? So when you load this really cold cryogenic fluid, like it is the liquid oxygen, it's minus 200 degrees Celsius, minus 330 Fahrenheit. So it's really, really cold, right? And as you load it and it starts touching the walls of the tanks, the inner walls, the inside of the tank gets cold. It gets so cold that the outside air, the humidity and everything, it first condenses, right? It turns from vapor to a liquid, to droplets of water and things like that. And then it essentially turns into ice, right? Because it's that cold. I mean, water freezes at roughly 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So that means if you are well below that, it's going to turn into an ice. And that's what we see as frost. I mean, just to put it in perspective, liquid oxygen is so cold that you could, in theory, liquefy the air. And the whole reason why you could liquefy the air is because the air, it's 20% oxygen, right? And the other 70 something percent, it's nitrogen, and it also is liquid roughly around the same temperature as the liquid oxygen. So at the end of the day, you could essentially just literally turn the air liquid. It doesn't do that because there's a lot of air and there's wind flowing around and whatnot. So most of that frost is just the water in the air, but a lot of other things could turn into a solid from what you come essentially around the wall of the tank becoming so cold, right? That the air itself just the water and everything turns into a solid. But again, as I said, a few other things could even turn into a liquid or solid because CO2 and things like that can also become like that at those temperatures.
Exactly. And yes, we have now passed the 30-minute mark. It definitely looks like there is frost on the vehicle. So propellant load underway, which is what we like to see. And yes, to everyone in chat, just like on, if anyone's watched A Christmas Story, you've learned be careful licking cold things or else your tongue will get stuck to the pole. Or in this case, yeah, don't lick the rocket. That would be a bad thing.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Although in terms of making the liquid oxygen and stuff, Nile Red made his own liquid nitrogen. I think liquid oxygen is on his list of things to make. So I will be excited to see them. Not sponsored by them, just a fan of their YouTube channel.
Speaking of making oxygen and nitrogen, because I said, oxygen is like 20-something%, right, of the air, and you've got nitrogen, it's also 70-something%. So depending on the way that you talk about it, it's a different percent, but it's 70-something for nitrogen, 20-something for oxygen, right? And one of the things that happens is that what is the cheapest way to get oxygen? It's literally getting it from the air. There are these plants around the world because oxygen is not only used for rockets, of course. You got it, medicine applications and things like that, welding and all that. But like the easiest way is just to liquefy the air, do distillation, right? And you get nitrogen and oxygen from the air. And nitrogen as well is used in many other applications as well, superconductors and all that stuff as well. So that is essentially what SpaceX is going to be doing. We've seen this work already ongoing at Starbase, but SpaceX will do the same on the Space Coast with its own air separation unit. So, yeah, you can literally make your own nitrogen and oxygen out of the air.
Yep, we've seen in the documents as they work on both 39A and 37 plans for these air separation units that they can actually take it from the air and use it to fuel the vehicle. But the other thing that makes Falcon 9 unique, Max, and what is also kind of annoying for if something happens while they're fueling, is that they do this not just cold, but super chilled, right?
Yes. So basically, the liquid oxygen on the first stage, and I believe on the upper stage as well, is basically chilled down to its triple point. So it's almost solid oxygen. Like it's as cold as almost as they can get it, while staying liquid. And the RP1 is also chilled as well, because the colder a fluid is, the more dense it is, and therefore the more the more fuel you can fit into the same size of tanks. So that is why SpaceX utilizes the load and go procedure and loading the rocket pretty much as late as they possibly can, because Falcon 9 does not have any sort of installation on its actual tank structure. So it's basically, as soon as either prop enters the tanks, it begins to raise in temperature immediately, which is obviously not what you want in terms of what Falcon 9 needs to perform the way that they want it to. So, they are both very, very, very cold, and I would not recommend anyone going up anywhere near either propellant in any state, really. But yeah, Falcon 9 is unique and a bit stubborn at times as well, because once you go into prop load operations, essentially you cannot recycle the rocket or ground systems in time for a second attempt. Once you begin prop load of the vehicle, you are then committed to that T0, although it is not that big of an issue today, because they are already at the end of the window. So it is either now or not today at all. They do have a backup window tomorrow, but hopefully they won't need that. But yes, Falcon 9 is a rather tricky little beast sometimes.
As smooth as it can be in terms of operation, as fast as they are with turnaround, and the fact that they can load the entire vehicle in just about 35 minutes, that's the cost, I guess, so to speak, from it, is you run the risk of, you're committed regardless of how much time is left in the window, which there wasn't much left anyway as they began fueling today. Let's see. We have some fantastic puns now coming in. Wyoming, yeah. I love that this goal includes people making the puns. Wyoming Coast saying, I was Wyoming Ghost in October, but they went back to the @ names in chat. Yeah, that's a YouTube thing, that's for sure. Let's see. Couple more ethereal swordsmen here. Apparently the Mortal Kombat theme song actually comes from an Eastern European church. Did you know that? It sounds odd, but it's actually a finish him. Get it? Finish him, like from Finland, but also finish him.
Wow. That's all I can say. Just wow.
Somebody save me, please.
Thank you. Hey, I didn't come up with that one. That was
Help.
Ethereal Swordsman. Ren, thank you for coming, a Pad Rat member. And then Vanessa coming in with the €5. Thankfully for everybody, I guess, no pun included there. No pun intended. Come on, you didn't like the finish him one? That was pretty good. I guess that's also why I have the reputation I do. Also, shout out to the person in chat who just said, I'm finished with these puns. No, just the awkward silence? Okay. Gotta love it. Anyway, let's continue along here.
So you're being like, geez, tough crowd.
It really is, man. It's so tough crowd kind of today. But I mean, everyone's here mainly for the vehicle on screen. We have the HTV being birthed. We've got Newgland. We got a lot of stuff still actually happening right now, at least. So, cool things going on, which we are now at 22 minutes and 22 seconds to go, by the way, until launch. And this booster, by the way, the Country Cook's asking, can you give us the history of this booster? So, who wants to take that? Max or Alex? Who wants to run through the mission list?
You can go ahead, Max.
Sorry, just pulling it up here. So, this booster has essentially seen missions from Crew 8, Polaris Dawn, CRS-31, Astranis from One to Many, IM-2, Commercial GTO-1, and then 8 previous Starlink missions as well. So, it's got a pretty good history, although in the grand scheme of things as well, only 15 flights it's not old, it's not young, it's kind of middle-aged. So, that's why this booster is pretty much, I kind of want to say it's in the prime of its life right now, because beyond 20, that's when things can kind of get questionable, I guess, because there actually is a pretty good amount of boosters now above 20 flights. But I think the prime operations for at least commercial customers is around 10 to 20, and actually 5 to 20. So because after that, Falcon 9 has seen a lot of stuff, and it is quite a worn vehicle. Although booster B1067 is currently the fleet leader, holding at 31 flights to this point. So clearly, there's a lot more life in it. Although not every booster is created or treated equal or fairly. Some go through a lot more wear and tear than others do. But yeah, hopefully this booster has a lot more life in it, and we can see at least 15 more missions out of it. Although, ideally, it'd be more around 25.
Yeah, we'll see how high they end up going with the number of vehicles and how many vehicles and how high they're willing to push them. I know we just saw one recently that it had a bunch of flights that was expended, but this one not to be expended. In fact, this one to vent. And there it goes as we hit the T-minus 20-minute 20-second quote-unquote best vent. And I use quote-unquote vent especially because it's not so much a vent. The vent is more of a result of a chill down, right, Alex?
Yeah, because they flow a little bit of that liquid oxygen through the line, and of course it warms up because the line is warm. It's at whatever temperature it is in Florida right now, and so while the pipe itself gets cold, but the liquid oxygen gets warm and it turns into a gas, and you need to vent that out. And that's what you see there on your screen, that vent coming out, not from the rocket, but from the ground systems, from the Stromback on the transporter reactor that sort of, provides that liquid oxygen to the second stage. Again, this is in preparation for, in about 3 minutes or so, start that liquid oxygen load on the second stage. So that'll mean that once we see that vent just stop being there, then we'll have that liquid oxygen load on that second stage.
Yep, that's a good sign. And as always, it's also a good sign to kind of show which way the wind is blowing, how strong the wind is, the humidity, and the weather in general. Max, what's the latest weather update that we have?
Well, in terms of the weather here at the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, it is still pretty lovely, although there is a bit of a cloud layer washing in now, which might obstruct our view a bit, but otherwise, things are still looking pretty good. In terms of the downrange recovery weather, I believe some buoy data was suggesting that these swells were beginning to lower in height, which is good to see, because last we checked, they were around 11 feet, and that is obviously not ideal. So I believe last time we checked, it was around 5.5 to 6 feet, which is still it's still uncomfortable, but we've seen Falcon 9 land in those before. So things seem to be trending in the right direction, but we will have to wait and see, and hopefully not too much longer.
Exactly. Yeah, again, the official forecast 95% favorable, although the recovery weather concerns were listed as moderate. But yeah, 95 doesn't get much better than that, with the slight concern of a cumulus cloud rule.
Which is now coming into effect because there are some clouds above us now, which is kind of annoying. But it is what it is.
And I think it's worth noting because everyone's just like, oh, it's just a cloud. What's the big deal? Rockets fly through clouds all the time. But Max, it has to do with the specific type of cloud and what can happen if it flies through it.
Yeah, and what can happen is when any rocket flies through a cumulus cloud, which is rather thick and has a rather high electric charge, the vehicle could generate its own lightning and be struck by it. And that is, of course, not ideal when you have a tube full of supercritical propellants that are just waiting to ignite with something. And especially if there's people on board. Cough, Apollo 12, cough. So yeah, it's not great, and hopefully they won't have to avoid that today. These clouds look to be on the lower level side in terms of altitude, so not terribly high and not terribly thick, and they're also moving pretty fast as well. So I wouldn't say it's a really large concern just of yet.
Just something that they will absolutely be keeping an eye on. But yeah, that's why there is a cumulus cloud rule of you don't want, as the official term is for it, triboelectrification. I still love that word. That's why I'll say it any chance I get. Of course, this one launching out of Slick 40, the busiest launch pad in the world. That's Space Launch Complex 40, the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, as you see on the screen. But that's not the only launch pad that SpaceX launches from here. And question from Mike, the pilot, asking, Alex, why haven't there been launches out of 39A as of recent?
Well, we don't know right now. It's the best answer I can give you about that because it's been a bit of radio silence, if you will, from SpaceX. The last launch was about a month ago, on September 24th. Now you could think, well, maybe it's the Starship launchpad work, right, that they are doing at 39A. The thing is, they've been doing that even with launches happening. And to be fair, they are also doing work at Slick 40 right now because they're building a landing zone at Slick 40 and they're still doing it while they are launching like 8 times a month, right? Like 2 times a week and things like that. So nothing would impede them from saying, hey, let's launch at least once a week out of 39A, or maybe once every week and a half or something like that, right? Like maybe every 10 days or something like that. But they have not launched in a full month. So if I'm going to be honest, my answer here is what I just said earlier, that I have no idea. I'm as puzzled as you are because they were in a good track. Like they were literally going even faster than last year in terms of the number of launches. By the time they stopped launching last month, and they were on a good track to do like 30 launches out of 39A this year, and for whatever reason they stopped doing those launches. And again, you could think it's maybe for the Starship work, but I mean, having seen the amount of work that they've been doing, I'm not so sure that it is just that, right? There must be other reasons that sort of add up to the whole sort of, full reasoning, if you will.
Yeah, it's definitely puzzling. I was thinking about that the other day. We haven't had a 39A launch recently. And I mean, it helps that they are able to have 2 to 3 day turnarounds here at Slick 40 to be able to just keep launching them. But boy,
Yeah.
I'd miss some of the 39A ones.
Yeah, and to be fair, like in terms of the construction of 39A Starship pad, it's like they only stop maybe for a full shift, maybe like 6-8 hours or something like that, and they're back to work. Like we've seen them launching like a crew mission, for example, right? That they sometimes come up from 39A, and within 3 or 4 hours, we start seeing the cranes moving around. It's like, wow, they just launched 3 or 4 hours ago, and they're back again, right? So yeah, that could be a reason, but I don't think, like, I think that there must be something else adding up to that.
Right. I mean, they also now have the largest crane in the world out there too, the LR 13,000. So I'm guessing it's expensive to keep it around. Might as well use it as much as they can, and get the work done, get Starship going as fast as possible, and not have to worry about reorganizing things there too. I'm sure a lot of it, though, if we're being honest, probably is Starship related. But I do wonder. Let's see here. Continuing along then, we are getting close to the pun goal. Trent saying, for the pun trench, with the $5 super there. Vanessa with nothing there yet, no comment, but still, thank you very much. Nick Petros, the pun never ends. Isn't that the truth? Jim Graves, the £5. I recently bought a genuine Van Gogh table or Van Gogh table. I knew it was genuine as there was a bit of veneer missing. That was a good one. Ethereal Swordsman. Recently I got chased by a skeleton, but when it caught me, it just gave me a hug and a kiss. Turns out it was an exoskeleton. It makes more sense when you read it on screen.
I bet you got the cold shoulder. Anyways.
Ooh.
Wow. That was pretty good, Alex.
That was very good.
Thank you.
And Martin coming in, extra 5 puns for the Flame Trench on top of the token pile he already has. We did it. We did it. I will make sure that they are not wasted, that they are actual good puns this time. I promise you. And by good, I mean Jack and EJ are going to want to turn the cameras off and groan miserably from it. Thank you again, chat, everyone, for making us, allowing us to hit that goal and allowing me to have a lot of fun this Friday. So everyone tune in. You're going to have to hold me to it. And at this point now, we are 11 minutes and 11 seconds to go until launch. There was another really good question in here. Now that we're seeing the landing zone being built at 40 and things like that, Brooding Jet, how many Starlinks could SpaceX launch with an RTLS? Alex, you want to take that?
Probably on the order of like 17 to 18 of them. I will have to actually, do the math on those, but it will be something along those lines.
Yeah, it'll be less, but could that help with the cadence then? Could they maybe make up for it if they started, say landing them right next to Slick 40 with the new LZ that they're building there, and just roll it into the HIF and go again?
It could definitely help. The question is, will they do it, right? Like, would such a thing happen, right? I tried to ask this to Giga Donchev yesterday, and he did not reply. But hopefully we get some kind of answer along those lines, about what could be the possibilities. Because we know they had thought about it at some point in the past, but it was just on documentation, right? It was not really something that they actually did at any point. And so far, they focused more on just reducing the turnaround time for the drone ships rather than doing RTLS. So we'll see what happens.
We will see. Also, son of a gun, now there's a new super chat goal to remove the pun tokens?
That's perfect.
What? No, don't support that. No, I want my pun tokens, please. I need to torture chat on Friday, please. Oh, gosh. Well, we are now under 10 minutes. Unbelievable. Sorry, I'm just taken aback by that a bit. We should get back to actual questions here as we now get 9 minutes to go until launch. Here's one from Johan, and I'm guessing, Alex, the answer is going to be, we don't know, but who decides what booster is used on what flight? Is it first come, first serve?
Well, I mean, who decides? I'm sure it's all of the teams that they have. They probably have different planning and things like that. But as to what are the criteria to select different boosters is probably down to the status of the booster and things like that, whether it's ready to launch already or not. And one of the things as well that they tend to do is well ahead of time, they try to project the boosters' assignments well down the line in terms of the schedule. So it's a bit of that, but it's also flexible. We've seen in the past where, especially now that they have multiple launches on their launches page, right? we've seen sometimes that they change around some of these assignments. Even the payloads themselves may change assignments. Like we've said that this launch in particular is carrying 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites, but guess what? It was supposed to happen a few launches ago, in fact, and every now and then we will see the description on the website page being changed from 29 to 28. And this one is the only one that remained at 29 satellites so far. So yeah, so they're carrying 29 here. Maybe those were supposed to fly on a previous Starlink Group 10 mission, right? And that's why some of the earlier ones they had 29, for example. So it probably is down to aspects such as, again, readiness for flight, what sort of their idea, what the schedule will look like in the next couple of months, and multiple other factors that we probably are not even aware, given our very little insight into that process.
Exactly. One thing we do have insight into is that at T-minus 7 minutes, which we are at now, we typically get the engines chilling down for flight. Max, I know we're going to need to let you go, but before we do you mind just explaining why we have an engine chill down here?
Because essentially it is a very bad idea to be flowing super chill propellants through any sort of plumbing or materials that are not either at or very near the same temperature, because that can cause the materials or plumbing to crack, and the fluids to turn to flash, or to turn into a gas rather rapidly and expanding, and causing a whole bunch of damage and a headache for a lot of people. So that is why this is important, especially with the pumps on the Merlin 1Ds having very, very, very little tolerances. And so I think precision is the name of the game here, and they need all of the advantage that they can get, and that is why they pre-chill the lines and the pumps and everything else in the Merlins beforehand. So it's the same with the Raptor, and it is the same with most other rocket engines that use any sort of cryogenic propellants in them. So it would be a very bad day for a lot of people if they didn't. I think that's fair to say.
That is definitely fair to say, yes. And I know you've got some work to do with your cameras out there. So Max Evans and DY is both out in the field, be providing views for us. We will check in with both of you after the launch.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll see y'all on the other side.
There we go. And again, we are getting close to strongback retract. That'll be in just a couple of or just about a minute or so.
A minute or so, yeah.
Yeah, I was just checking the numbers counting down. So in that case, it's kind of hard to see from this angle, but behind that giant black tower, next to the rocket, there's a metallic structure. That structure provides all of the propellants, the gases, data lines, all that different information from the ground to the rocket that will lean back about 1.8 degrees before launch. That's what we will see happening in a couple of seconds. And then following that, it will throw all the way back at liftoff. And before we continue on with the countdown, normally I don't do super chats within the 5 minutes, but I have to address Russell Snodgrass coming in with a $100 super chat 5 minutes before launch here. Wow, thank you. Saying, at NASA spaceflight, you can give or take away pun tokens all day. It doesn't matter. Sawyer is gonna pun. With words like that, I will make sure that it is a pun-filled flame trench on Friday. Thank you so very, very much. A name we see her often and that we appreciate. Russell, thank you as always. Really, really appreciate that support. That's how we're able to have the entire team that we're bringing you here today, and cameras looking at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and at Falcon 9, where 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites sit inside that fairing that you see on your screen right now. The strongback, as mentioned, has retracted at 1.8 degrees, and we now have booster 1083 ready to go for its 15th time. And for those just getting up to date, the recovery, Alex, for this mission will be
a drone ship. That's going to be just read the instructions. Those fairing halves that we were seeing are also flight proven. We now know, because we saw these rolling out the other day, and one is flying probably for the 27th or 28th time, and the other is flying for a 24th time. So both fairing halves are well into their 20s in terms of flights, and those are also going to be recovered by a fairing recovery vessel, Doug.
Yep. So all of the vessels are downrange. Of course,
Stage
one of the
1,
concerns
lock
has
load
been the wave
complete.
heights.
There we go.
But there we go. Hearing the LOX load complete there. So Falcon 9 fueled up here, ready to go. Coming up shortly will be the gas vent closeout, where we will see a return of what looks like the 20-minute, 20-second vent, but it's not. But that is when they purge out all of the lines on the transporter erector on that strong back there to clear out everything. And of course, that will come after we get the final call for a fully fueled Falcon 9, which we should be hearing shortly. As stage 1 is loaded, we wait for stage 2.
Yep, just a few more seconds and we should get that call out.
And then once that rocket is fully fueled, we will get towards the final parts of the
Stage
count.
2, LOX load complete.
There we go. Stage 2 LOX load is complete. Next up will be Falcon 9 entering startup at the 1 minute mark. That is when the onboard computers will take control of the countdown. And then in addition to that, that's also when they take all of the tanks and pressurize them to their final flight levels. Again, you may see a delay between our clock and SpaceX's clock, as ours has a lot less latency. But there is that vent that we were talking about, purging the lines of any remaining gases as they call out the gas closeout. Clearing out of the lines, don't want anything hanging out in those lines extra just in case, as a rocket and a whole bunch of flames from those 9 Merlin 1D engines pass by. So next up, we'll be listening for that call from SpaceX that Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There's the call. A little bit late, but we got it. Next up, hopefully, will be the go for launch if they are going to proceed with the launch attempt today.
Go for launch.
And there it is. We are go for launch. So we are now 30 seconds away from the launch of 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites. Of course, we will be quiet and let you listen to the amazing sounds and everything once it launches. It does take some time, though, for the audio to get to our cameras, just as a warning there. So next up will be the Rainbird starting. That will be followed by the ignition of those 9 Merlin 1D engines. And liftoff of Falcon 9 on Starlink 10-37. Go, Starlink V2 minis. Go. What a crackle today. Beautiful sounds this morning as we pass through max Q, maximum aerodynamic pressure, pushing down on the vehicle. And our ground team continuing still to track it as the atmosphere gets thinner and that plume expands where you can really see those 9 engines working. Gotta love it. Gotta love the sounds of that one today, especially. So far, everything looks good up to this point. So next up will be a couple of events in rapid succession. That is starting off with MECO, or main engine cutoff. That will be followed shortly thereafter by first and second stage separation. And then that will be followed after that by SES-1 second engine start 1 when they ignite the singular Merlin vacuum engine aboard stage 2.
And see the shadow of its own trail on the
Oh,
water.
look at that. Yeah, the shadow in the water. That is spectacular. And of course, this one heading towards the northeast, away from the storms that have been hitting Jamaica and that area.
Wow.
Let's see. So there we go. There's
Main engine
MECO.
cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
And
MVAC startup.
that's what we want to hear. There we go. All 3 events happening as they should. And then next thing that we will be looking for will be the payload fairing jettison, as we see those grid fins opening up on the left side of the screen.
I will
that
see
part
what
there.
the weather looks like downrange for that booster landing. That was one of the sort of risks for today's launch in terms of the weather criteria.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Oh, there we go. Fairing sep.
Beautiful. The fairings have separated away, exposing those 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites to space as Stage 1 and Stage 2 continue their trajectory so far. And I love you could see the cold gas jet thrusters on the left side during the day, especially those little puffs of gas. How much steering is that actually doing, Alex?
Well, it's got a bit of steering. I mean, they have plenty of time now, right? So it's a slow movement. But when they do a boost back run, for example, they do this thing of like turning back all the way without even needing the gimbaling of the engines or anything. It just pushes back the whole booster back. It's super cool when that happens because it's a very quick flip. So yeah, it's really nice.
Yep, and now kind of just maintaining that trajectory as it targets the drone ship. Just read the instructions downrange.
Indeed.
And that cold gas, by the way, that's literally just gas from inside the vehicle. It's not like it's a special hydrazine or anything fancy like that. It's just puffing out extra pressure, right? Or is it?
Well, that's for Starship. For Falcon 9, they use nitrogen. So they have nitrogen composite overwrap pressure vessels in the RP-1 tank, and that's what they use. It's stored basically, normal nitrogen at room temperature, and they release that. It's called cold gas thruster because it's like you don't have any ignition source. It's not like a thruster, like a traditional thruster that you will see, for example, as you mentioned, like a hydrazine thruster, where you are burning stuff, right? That will be sort of like a hot gas thruster, if you will. It's just normal, regular nitrogen being. It's like jets of nitrogen essentially coming out of the Falcon 9.
Less spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everything, though, proceeding well. Looking up now inside of the first stage in that interstage area. And again, the venting that you see on the right side there, totally normal on the Merlin vacuum engine as that is continuing. Obviously, we've passed apogee for the first stage, the highest point in its trajectory. It is now about 90 kilometers in altitude and coming up on the entry burn. I know it's been a while since I've said it, so I will say it. That is where we fight fire with fire to help slow Falcon 9 down and protect it as it gets into some of the thicker parts of the Earth's atmosphere. So this is a 3-engine burn, and it technically starts as a single-engine burn before becoming 3 engines. So we'll keep an eye out for that on the left side of the screen.
Of ice flying off.
That is ice. It's normal. It's okay.
Yeah. That is not a fairing half that it's passed or anything like that. That's just ice from the bottom of the rocket.
There's
There
one
we go.
engine. The graphic already shows 3, and now you can see 3 on the screen because you get that kind of rectangular shape there. And boy, is that adding some soot here to the camera on board, as well as the rest of the vehicle, I should point out there. and then it goes back to a single engine and cuts off. And that's what we like to see. So far, everything looking good. There is one more burn left for Falcon 9's first stage, and that, of course, is the landing burn, where it will fire up a singular engine and then steer itself, hopefully with landing leg deploy, and gently dropping down onto just read the instructions to be recovered, brought back to the Cape, refurbished, and flown again.
And the signal cuts, because of course. This is what happens when your rocket doesn't have Starlink.
Yeah,
Super Heavy doesn't have this problem.
But of course, we will have hopefully views from the drone
Okay,
itself.
telemetry is back.
It'll be interesting to see the sea state, as you were pointing out, as that was one of their concerns.
Ah, there we go. Video back.
So far, looking good. Again,
It's a
we'll
bit
start to see
shaky, so that's why the signal,
yeah, and we will hopefully see those grid fins actually start moving. That's really what does a lot of the steering as it gets into the thicker part of the atmosphere as it gets lower down to the drone ship.
Stage 1 landing burn startup. Stage 2
All
is
right.
the terminal guide.
And there is the drone ship by that left grid fin. It's now going to steer towards it. Normally it steers away from it just in case until the last minute. Grid fins doing their work. There's a view from the deck.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
There's the legs, and ooh, the camera got a little shaky there.
That was fun. I gotta admit
Stage
that.
1 landing confirmed.
Especially fun because there is a booster on the drone ship deck. Just read the instructions. B-1083 successfully completing 15 missions now, and another successful booster recovery and landing.
MVAC shutdown.
Hey, the drone ship, there we go. The drone ship does have Starlink. The signal did not cut.
Yes, it does have Wi-Fi on board. I have been in a boat next to it and seen the Wi-Fi names, and they are hysterical. We could see already replays coming in quite quick now. This is a view from one of the cameras that we have atop of our building at the press site. And another cool view of that as well. That was quite the landing. That looked very close to the camera, Alex. Sorry, I'm just kind of thinking about the landing there. It's a safe any landing you can walk away from is a safe landing, but
I think the booster fared a lot better than that camera. I'm gonna be honest here. I don't think the booster was that bad coming in landing. It was the camera that got it worse.
yeah, well, GoPros and all that.
That was really, really close.
Oh yeah, which by the way, Max, from your perspective, I know it was a bit cloudy, but how are the views?
Oh, it was magnificent. Apart from the fact that we had some pesky clouds wash over us and disrupt a lot of our view, which you guys probably saw from all of our cameras. But it was glorious, beautiful. Sound was also very, very punchy, as I often say, because those clouds served to reflect a lot of that sound back onto us, and so we felt it a lot more than we normally do at times. But it was beautiful. Any day to get Falcon 9 off the ground is a good day.
Yep, and it's also worth noting that Julia Bergeron, who's further downrange, was still hearing distant rumbles at Miko. So the sound really traveled today. And again, if anyone saw it or got videos of it or pictures of it, you can tag us on all of our social media channels, X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok. Be very interested to see some of your views if you caught it. Another view that I want to see again is the landing. I believe we have the replay of that. Let's take a look back at this because it seemed a little spicy. Everything seemed okay on the left side of the screen, but boy, that camera on the right. All right, here we go.
And
whoa! You can see also that it looked like a giant wave almost coming over it right at that exact moment that it listed like that. Was that the drone ship listing or, kind of bouncing a bit? Is that what that was that I'm seeing?
I think it was just the rocket landing itself that knocked the
That
camera
shadow
back
on the
up.
left. Look at that.
Oh, on the water.
Yeah.
Whee! And
Because you
then
look at the booster
Mhm.
camera, and the booster was coming in nice and you know, good attitude, good orientation, and everything. I don't know, like it felt like it was the camera. Maybe it's not fully secured or anything. We're probably gonna have to send Jack out there.
That's a wild landing view. We don't get to see ones like that very often. Oh boy, cool view. Also cool is the amazing support that we've been getting here. Michael Weissman, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. John Coaches saying babaz. Vanessa, thank you for all the emojis there and the €5 again. Appreciate all of the support today. Ethereal Swordsman, do you know the difference between a hippo and a zippo? One's really heavy, the other's a little lighter. Those who don't know, Zippo is a lighter brand, which is what makes that one funny. And Tommy coming in with the $5 super chat with a shout out to Jamaica. Of course, all of our thoughts are with the people of Jamaica who have been impacted by the hurricane that has gone through there. It has been devastating to see, but all of our thoughts are with everyone there. Also, Ethereal Swordsman coming in with one more pun here. Scientists tried to cross cheetah and crab genes together. I'm worried because it can go sideways very fast.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know that was all pretty bad, but the good news for me at least is that we fell just a little bit short of the goal of getting all of the puns in time. So, yeah, that means I get extra puns for the Flame Trench on Friday. That's gonna be fun. Oh man, and then of course I see DY's slow-mo coming up in the back channel. I gotta thank the people that were here with me today though for this beautiful launch. Alex, thank you very much for
It's
joining
always
me
a
today.
pleasure. Yeah. You know, sometimes I'm the one hosting this a little bit alone, right? But sometimes I get to have company and actually be the one doing all of the questions. Wow, it's that Julia?
That is from Julia downrange. Yes, Julia
Look at that.
Bergeron sending in these beautiful photos as well. Max Evans, thank you for joining from the field.
Happy to as always, Sawyer, and thank you very much everyone else for coming to hang out with us. I was going to say this morning, but it is now technically afternoon, so thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, D, out in the field as well. And then Ryan Caton has been your producer, along with Jay Keegan. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I have been your host here at NSF and on the Popular Science Channel. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you later today for the flyover.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, planet.
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Say again, SPD off. It's orange!
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Décollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.